My name is Sergeant Farrell, and today I'll be giving a brief on Master Sergeant Benavidez. This brief is unclassified, and the purpose of this brief is to educate and inform y'all of who is Master Sergeant Benavidez, what type of effect has he had on our military community, and why is he such a big inspiration for people who have served and people who are currently still serving. Master Sergeant Benavidez enlisted in the Texas National Guard in 1952. He then transitioned to active duty in 1955 and was assigned to the 82nd Airborne Division upon completion of training in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. People may ask, who is Master Sergeant Benavidez? Why has he had such an impact on our community, and why are we still talking about him and his actions 52 years later? So on May 2nd, 1968, Master Sergeant Benavidez, at the time Staff Sergeant Benavidez, was on his second tour in Loc Ninh, Vietnam. He was assigned to the Bravo 5-6 5th Special Forces Division. On this particular day, the unit sent out a 12-man Special Forces reconnaissance team. Staff Sergeant Benavidez was back at the FOB monitoring the mission via radio. Shortly after the team hit the ground, they were there to collect intel on a heavily confirmed enemy area. Shortly after they hit the ground, they got hit with enemy fire and requested to be evacuated. At this time, Staff Sergeant Benavidez made the selfless decision and voluntarily got on the helicopter to assist extracting his team from the area. On the way there to the area, Staff Sergeant Benavidez knew that his team could not get to the designated pickup point. So he redirects the helicopter and he jumps from this hovering helicopter and runs 75 meters through small arm fire. Once he gets to his team, he starts redirecting personnel, calling orders, and he is carrying his team, wounded and dead, to the aircraft. Staff Sergeant Benavidez was very injured, and with very little strength, he made sure all classified documents had been picked up and that no man was left behind. Because of this, Staff Sergeant Benavidez suffered 37 gunshot wounds, bayonet puncture wounds, and a broken jaw. It's been said that Staff Sergeant Benavidez was so injured that they thought that he was dead. They placed his body in a body bag, and the only reason they knew he was still alive was because he was spitting. From this day and Staff Sergeant Benavidez's actions, he saved 8 men. Moving forward, Master Sergeant Benavidez's commanding officer did not think that he was going to be able to survive through all of his injuries. So he nominates Master Sergeant Benavidez for the Distinguished Service Cross. The reason he nominates him for this is because this award takes less time to process. Master Sergeant Benavidez receives the Distinguished Service Cross presented by General William C. Westmoreland. Years later, General Westmoreland hears and learns about all the details that Master Sergeant Benavidez did in all of his heroic actions and nominates him for the Medal of Honor. Master Sergeant Benavidez received the Medal of Honor February 24th, 1981, presented by President Ronald Reagan. Leadership. We all have our own definitions of leadership. Leadership is the process of influencing people by providing purpose, direction, and motivation. All of our ideal leaders that we see in the Army follow what's called the Army Leadership Requirement Models. You have your attributes and you have your competencies. Attributes consist of character, presence, intellect. Competencies go hand in hand, lead, develop, and achieves. Master Sergeant Benavides has all 6 of these qualities. Servant leadership. Servant leadership is putting your people first and you under. Master Sergeant Benavides is a true servant leader. With no regard to himself, he put the mission, his people, all before himself. In an article from NPR, Master Sergeant Benavides' daughter, Yvette, talks about how the event that took place May 2nd, 1968, had an everlasting effect on the parenting that Master Sergeant Benavides did. She described how she would be watching TV and her father would just creep up behind her and just watch her. She also describes how in the car she saw her dad bleeding from the back of the head, and he pulls out a piece of shrapnel. The shrapnel's trying to make his way through his skin, and he just threw it, and she said she could hear the cling of the shrapnel. Renee, Yvette's husband, describes her father-in-law looking like he was always in pain based off of the way he was walking. The events that took place on May 2nd, 1968 affected Master Sergeant Benavides for the rest of his life. True leadership. Master Sergeant Benavides embodied all of the Army values, the soldier's creed, and the creed of the non-commissioned officer. Selfless service. He placed the mission above himself and was thinking about his team that was dealing with the fire from the enemy. Loyalty. He had loyalty to his team, loyalty to his country. Duty. He 100% fulfilled his duty, and the duty that we sign up for when we raise our right hands. And he had personal courage. Going out there was probably extremely scary, but he mustered up the strength, he mustered up the courage, and was there for his team. The soldier's creed. Master Sergeant Benavides embodies all of the warrior ethos. I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat. I will never leave a fallen comrade. And the creed of the non-commissioned officer. He has 2 basic responsibilities that he kept upmost in his mind: accomplishment of the mission and the welfare of his soldiers. All 3 of these things, the Army values, the soldier's creed, and the creed of the non-commissioned officer, are instilled in us since basic training. And Master Sergeant Benavides truly embodied all 3 of these teachings. The legacy. What legacy has Master Sergeant Benavides left? As you can see, so many, and these are just a few, have been named after in his honor. Army Reserve Center, training areas, Colorado Springs, City Park, and an elementary school. Master Sergeant Benavides, what he did was remarkable, and we commend him for that. Family and death. So, Master Sergeant Benavides was married to his wife from 1959 to 1998. They had 3 children together, Noelle, Yvette, and Denise. Sadly, on November 24th, 1998, at the age of 63, Master Sergeant Benavides passed away from respiratory failure. He also had diabetes as well. Master Sergeant Benavides was laid to rest at the Fort Sam Houston National Cemetery. In conclusion, we can see what a remarkable man Master Sergeant Benavides was. He left an everlasting legacy and is a true inspiration of how we take the doctrines we learn from the Army values, the soldier's creed, the creed of the non-commissioned officer, and we follow them. We take those words and we follow them truly. Master Sergeant Benavides is an inspiration to all of us, and we should truly thank him for his service that he's done for our country. And that concludes this brief. Are there any questions? No, but I do have 2 questions for y'all. When did Master Sergeant Benavides pass away? And when did he enlist in the military?